Now, Israel has also targeted multiple cities and key locations across the Middle East region in recent days. Let's take a closer look. On Wednesday, Israel carried out airstrikes on Yemen's capital, killing at least 35 people. The same day, the Israeli military used a drone to attack an aid flotilla in Tunisia that was bound for Gaza. On Tuesday, it launched an attack on a Hamas negotiating team in Doha, killing 5 people, but not the prime targets. On the same day, it struck multiple sites in Syria, including an air defense college in Homs. On Monday, the Israeli military launched airstrikes on northeastern Lebanon, killing 5 people, including 4 members of Hezbollah. And on Sunday, it bombed another residential high-rise building as part of its large-scale offensive on Gaza City. And then on Saturday, Israeli forces raided homes and detained at least 16 Palestinians across occupied West Bank. And despite the US president saying that no further attacks would happen on Qatari soil, the Israeli prime minister has issued this threat. He said, "I say to Qatar and all nations who harbour terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice, because if you don't, we will." Let's go straight to Daniel Levy. He's the president of the US Middle East Project and also a former Israeli negotiator, joining us live from London. Mr. Daniel, you just heard that incredible threat from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, we've said it time and time again. He seems to have been emboldened by his friend Donald Trump, the US president. But as the Qataris and people in the region have said, this has completely now crossed a red line. There's no going back from that, is there?
Well, I heard those comments made by the Israeli prime minister. He has his comments. And then there is this thing called international law. And do we go by the subjective designations and decisions of a rogue state, or do we have international law? And Netanyahu has laid down that challenge. It's a challenge he has laid down, and the Israeli leadership and the Israeli state has laid down for an awfully long time. And they haven't yet been pulled up on it, because there is a gentleman, he happens to be called Mr. Netanyahu, who has an ICC arrest warrant against his name for war crimes. Does that now mean that any country that harbors this war criminal, any country he visits, is a legitimate target for military action in order to extrajudicially assassinate this war criminal? I imagine he doesn't see it that way. And international law doesn't see it that way. The one problem with international law is it does not self-implement. It needs countries to actually make the effort, take the steps, where a violator of international law is held to account, is not held to impunity, which is the case with Israel. So there is the bluff and bluster of the Israeli leadership, but it only gets actually challenged if the challenge is concrete.
And Daniel Levy, you just mentioned there, of course, that you heard that statement. Now, why do you think Israel decided to target Hamas specifically in Qatar? There had been talk, there's been reports that they were looking at probably Hamas members, for example, in Turkey. Why Qatar, a mediating country?
Well, that does take it to a new level. The fact that Qatar is the mediator to which Israel has been sending its senior officials, its Mossad chief, ministers, the negotiating team. Once you do that in the sovereign territory of the mediator, and this isn't just a mediator that took this upon itself in some kind of freelancing capacity, unbeknownst to you or unaccepted by you, this is the mediator that has operated with both parties, with the full cooperation of the Israelis, and, of course, of the US. Once you take that kind of an action, you are sending a signal not just to this particular mediator. In this case, that signal does very much matter, and Qatari blood was spilt by the action. But you send a larger signal to mediation more broadly, and I think this is why the action was taken in Doha. You're sending a signal to the region. Either get on board with our project of regional hegemony, domination, which includes the killing, displacement, ethnic cleansing, genocide of Palestinians, or try challenge us. We dare you, because we've got America on our side, and we are unassailable militarily. And that's the question. Does that equation hold? There are a group of countries due to hold a summit in Doha in the coming days. Those countries have significant capacity to deter and contain Israel. Will they choose to do so is the question that I think has to be on the table right now.
All of this just less than a month from the October 7 attack. Thanks very much for joining us, Daniel Levy from London.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.